Alright, so today we're going to be taking a look at how to create a simple password generator in Python. Okay, so the basics of how a password generator works are very simple. You basically have an alphabet containing all of the letters and symbols and so on that you want your password to contain. What you then do is you use a randomizer to randomly pick out letters and symbols out of this alphabet and assemble that into a password. Alright, so to get to the coding part, you want to fire up your IDE. I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. I'm going to click on File, and we're going to click on New File. And we're going to save this as a Python file so that we get IntelliSense. So we say password gen.py. It's going to tell me it already exists. We're just going to ignore that. For creating this password generator, there are pretty much only two libraries that you need. The first one is the random library, and the second one is the string library. The random library is going to be used in order to randomly pick out characters out of the alphabet, and the string is going to be used in order to build our alphabet. So the first thing we want to do is we want to define our alphabet. So we say new variable called alphabet equals string dot, and we're going to take ASCII letters. So that's all the letters of the alphabet, both in capital and in small. We want to concatenate that with string.digits, and we want to add this twice. The reason we want to add the digits twice is because the ASCII letters are 52. The string.punctuation contains like another 40 symbols, and having only 10 symbols or 10 digits reserved for our numbers is going to cause our numbers to be very rare in the generated password. So what we're going to do is we're going to add it twice in order to even the odds. And then we're going to go ahead and add string.punctuation. So now we have our alphabet. It consists of all the letters of the alphabet. It contains all of the numbers from 0 to 9. And it contains a bunch of special characters. Now we want to go ahead and create a new variable called password. This is going to contain our output password. It's going to be an empty string now. We're going to go ahead and add to this all of the letters that we pick. The next thing we want is we want the desired password length. I'm going to put this in a try except block. So try. Actually, we need to define that variable beforehand. So password length equals 0. We say password length equals input int. So we want to parse input from the user, which is the password length, and we want to convert it to an integer because there are obviously no you can't have part of a password length. You can only have full numbers. Natural numbers. So we're going to say, please input password length. And if it fails converting it to an integer, we just want to say except and just print that the entered number, the entered input was not a number. And then we just want to terminate the program. Next, what we want to go ahead and do is we want to create a randomizer. In order to do this, we say for a in range, and we want to go from 0 to the desired password length, which is password length. So we want to iterate over this as many times as needed in order to get the password with the desired length. What we do now is we say password plus equals. So we're going to concatenate this with a new added letter. We're going to say alphabet, and the index is going to be random.randint, and it's going to start at 0, and we go length alphabet -1. The reason we go to the length of the alphabet -1 is because the size of the list is always 1 bigger than the last index. After we've done this, we just want to go ahead and say print, and then we just print our password. We can type in the generated password is, and then just do that. Now, if you want, you can go ahead and import the library Piperclip. You need to install this first with pip install Piperclip. And then you can copy the password to the clipboard. So what we can say is just take a variable, call it user input, and we say input. And we ask the user, do you want the password to be shown? And then we just define yes, no. And we say if the letter Y is in the user input, that means the user wants the password to be shown, so we can just do that. What we do beforehand is we say piperclip.copy, and we just copy the generated password to our clipboard. And else the user does not want the password to be shown, so we just print the password was copied to the clipboard. All right, so if we go ahead and navigate into the folder now, and we just type Python, and then I believe it was called password gen, and we just execute that, it's going to ask us for password length. We're just going to say 12. Do we want the password to be shown? We're going to say yes. And there you go. That's the first password. If I go ahead and hit Control V, you will see it was also copied to the clipboard. Now let's test the password not being shown. So we're going to go with 12 again. We're going to say no, we don't want it to be shown. It says it was copied to the clipboard. If I just do Control V, you will see that's our new generated password. And lastly, let's just test what happens if what we input is not a number. So we say G, and you'll see it says the entered input was not a number. So what we're going to go ahead and do now is we're going to take this little password generator and we're going to shrink it down to 2 lines of code. For doing this, I'm just going to go ahead and say, I know this is ridiculous and completely unnecessary, but we're just going to do it for the sake of it. So I'm just going to say file, new file. I'm going to save this one as 2-liner password generator.py. This one is not going to feature the Piperclip copy feature, because otherwise it's going to be a 3-liner. If you want, you can just go ahead and add that. Same principle, except we're going to get rid of the variables, and we're going to shrink this whole thing down using one map. So say import random, string. And now we go ahead and say print. And this is already going to print the generated password. So we say generated password. And then we go ahead and say double dot. Now the reason we're going to use this one, dot join, is because map returns a list. And that list will contain a bunch of characters. And we want to combine these characters into one string. So we say that, which is an empty space, dot join. We go ahead and say map. Now our map is going to get a Lambda function. And just going to call this A. And the expression that we're going to use is the following. So we say string dot letters plus string dot digits plus string dot digits plus string dot punctuation. So this is the list that we're going to be mapping on. And what we want to go ahead and do with this is we want to say we want this at random.randint. And this is going to go from 0 to the length of this. Now we don't want to copy this whole part in twice. So what we want to go ahead and do is we want to figure out the length of this. So we just copy this. We open up our command shell and just type Python and just type length of, actually we need to import it first, import string. Then we just print out the length of this. It says 104 and that number doesn't change. So we can just type in 104. That is the length of the list. However, we set -1, so we say 3. Let me write this in a way that's a little more clear. There we go. So that's what we're going to be executing every single time. And we want to do that as many times as the user desires. So we say range from 0 to int, input, and please input password length. Now let's explain what exactly happens here. So map produces a list, but map does a specific operation, in this case our little lambda function right here, and applies this to this list. So what happens is we have this, the list range from 0 to the password length consists of, well, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on until password length. And what we basically do is we say for each of these elements, we want to go ahead and use this lambda function. And this lambda function is going to go ahead and build a new list. And the new list is going to consist of a random character out of this list. So this list right here, which is our alphabet, this is a list. And every time we go ahead and pick out one element using this randomizer right here, and then we put it into a new list that map is building. We do that for each element out of these elements. What we end up with is we end up with a list of characters. And these characters are separated by commas and they are defined as a list. And what we want is we don't want that. We want this converted to a string. So that's why we say apostrophes.join this. And once it does that, now I haven't put in the apostrophes for every character, but you can imagine what I mean. It will go ahead and produce a list that looks like this. This is going to be the output string, which is then going to be printed alongside with the generated password string right here. So if we go ahead and save this, and we go into our terminal and we say Python 2-liner, it's going to ask us for the password length. Now in this case we do not have exception handling, so it will break if you enter anything else than a number. So we're just going to say 12. And this length here was not supposed to be there. Was my fault. Okay, so if we ignore that little error and do this again, you will see it'll give us our generated password. The reason that there are spaces in between is because this is not actually an empty string. This tells it to join it using spaces. So we will remove this Save again. And if we execute this once more, we have a 12-digit long password. So that's pretty much it for today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure to hit that like button. And if you haven't yet, then make sure to subscribe. All the code will be on the public GitHub repository with links down below. And we'll see you in the next video.